What is up, investors? Jason here. So today we're going to be very optimistic with Bitcoin. Now, there's a lot of bears out there that are making predictions that the price of Bitcoin could be going to $8,000, and I'm seeing some bears saying that the price of Bitcoin is going to be going to $12,000. Now, of course, no one can really predict what the price of Bitcoin is going to be going to because anything can happen. We can also see Bitcoin go into a massive rally and take us all the way up to $100,000. So yes, the content today is going to be like that. It's going to be very optimistic, and we're going to be going through some pretty amazing price movements with Bitcoin. So this is definitely one that you're going to want to watch and pay attention to because it might surprise you if you're not too familiar with Bitcoin or too familiar with the history of it or the halvings of Bitcoin, which is another thing that you have to take into consideration when you're trying to figure out the price movements of Bitcoin throughout the years, because those play a major factor into Bitcoin. That's all about the scarcity of Bitcoin, when the last Bitcoin is going to be mined more than 100 years from now, even though there's just such a short supply of Bitcoin left in comparison to how much Bitcoin has already been mined. So a lot of things that we're going to be going through today. So as we do, if you don't mind, please do me a huge favor. Please be sure to smash this story annihilate or gently press that like button. Help me out with the algorithm, help spread the content to more people that might find it interesting, and subscribe if you have not already. I make crypto related content every single day. So now let's get to it. So at the moment, Bitcoin is currently priced close to $30,000 to this time. But what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of sideways trading. It's actually been a very consistently doing the sideways trading along the line of $30,000. It might go up a little bit more, it might go down a little bit more, but at the same time, it is staying consistent within the $30,000 price range. And the big thing here is that it's been about 2 weeks now that we've been seeing it consistently trade sideways like it is, since the price had dropped after that whole Terra Luna fiasco, which sent already a bearish crypto market to be more bearish. Now, you can call the price of Bitcoin currently whatever you want, but in reality, the price of Bitcoin currently is stagnant, in my opinion. Now, if you look at past history of Bitcoin and we look at what Bitcoin was doing the last time that it was sitting around $30,000, and we can get a good understanding of what's kind of expected in the future if we were to be optimistic here. Now, if we were to look at Bitcoin at the last time it had touched $30,000 went on a rally, well, this was back in July of 2021. Now, at this time, we had seen the price of Bitcoin quickly go up month after month, all the way up to a new all-time high in November of 2021. That was when we saw Bitcoin go to a price of around $69,000. But if we were to also look at where Bitcoin was back in May of 2021 and what happened then, we had seen the price of Bitcoin then drop off around the same time that it did this last time, when we had seen the price of Bitcoin go on a pretty significant drop, as well as the whole crypto market after that whole Terra Luna fiasco. Now, at that time, we had seen the price of Bitcoin go from around $58,000 to even one point being above $60,000 to quickly dropping down into the very bearish territory. We saw the price of Bitcoin pretty much cut in half in a matter of no time. So that was actually a much larger crash than we have currently recently just seen, because that was a much faster drop on the price of Bitcoin than what we just recently experienced. Now, people were very bearish back then when that had happened last year, but the price of Bitcoin went back up and it continued to rally. At no point in 2021 did the price of Bitcoin ever fall too far below the price of $30,000 after it had surpassed it in 2021. Now, one of the reasons that Bitcoin is able to hold on so strongly at a price of around $30,000 is because there's a lot of retail investors that are in Bitcoin around this price and below. So that's helping it out a lot, because especially when we're seeing Bitcoin move a lot after the second half of 2020, when there was a lot of momentum going on during that time, more people kept buying and buying their Bitcoin then, and they sent it above that $30,000 price. That's when we got the institutions starting to buy more Bitcoin. That's when we saw Elon Musk make a big purchase of Bitcoin for Tesla. And that's when things really changed the game a bit. That's when we saw Bitcoin go on a lot more of a rally during that time. Now, if institutions didn't start buying a lot of Bitcoin until February of 2021, then why was Bitcoin moving so much at the end of 2020? Well, that has to do with the halving of Bitcoin, where the amount of Bitcoin that is being mined is cut in half. And this is something that Bitcoin does less than every 4 years. It's close to 4 years, but a little less that it takes to do that. So the last time that there was a halving on Bitcoin was actually on May 11th of 2020. That was the last time we saw it. And then we led Bitcoin into a big rally that had happened back then. When was the halving before that? Well, that was actually back in 2016. And that was on July 9th, 2016. Now, at the time in July 9th, 2016, we saw Bitcoin around a price of $660. And then the next halving in 2020, on May 11th, we had seen the price of Bitcoin at $9,100. So you can see the transition here within the price movements. Now, before we look at before the halving in 2020, there was a big rally that happened in Bitcoin back in 2017, at the end of it. In November, December 2017, we had seen the price of Bitcoin go up to around $20,000. Actually, a little less than $20,000, but Bitcoin had really climbed. And then it corrected real fast, and then we started moving along at a pace of around $9,000, $10,000 during that time until it went into the next halving. So for a bearish analyst to say that the price of Bitcoin can fall below the price it was when the last halving happened, in my opinion, is a far stretch from a real possibility. And this is just because historically, looking at the graph and comparing the times that the halvings happened to what the price movements were, it doesn't seem like something that we could really expect to happen. I mean, in reality, the price of Bitcoin goes up more than 10 times, well more than 10 times from one halving to the next. So, I mean, if we're even going to go off of that, then there's still plenty of price movements even until the next halving happens in 2024. So knowing all that, what a lot of these analysts do is they look at the price of Bitcoin and then they just base their analyst off of some past history without knowing why a lot of these price movements actually take place. They don't really take into account that there's a halving of Bitcoin, and that leads into a lot more price movements as Bitcoin becomes a lot more scarce. So with knowing that and getting the idea of the past price movements of the halving every time that has happened, with the Bitcoin's possibility of it going much higher than where it is a real possibility if people are still buying Bitcoin in the future. That's what it's all about. So who knows if people are going to still be buying Bitcoin 100 years from now, but there's a real possibility that Bitcoin has a lot more room to continue breaking out from the price that it's at currently right now. Even if it was to go back to its all-time highs that it was at back in November, we're talking about the price of Bitcoin more than doubling itself from there. So until we get to the next halving, we have until 2024, sometime around March of 2024, that will happen. So we can expect that maybe we'll see some pretty good price movements between now and then. But anyways, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions about Bitcoin. Is there anybody that is very bearish on Bitcoin that thinks that the price of Bitcoin could fall down significantly lower than where it's at currently? I would like to know. So with that being said, please like, share, comment, subscribe. New content coming out all the time. Thank you guys for watching and listening. I'll see you all in the next one coming very soon.